everyone, welcome to Dread No Mondays. I'm Kenny Ingersoll. Today we're here with Karin Antigua. Karin, I want to thank you for taking the time to be here, taking the time out of your schedule. What comes to mind when you hear the phrase Dread No Mondays?
Well, I really feel like I've learned a lot about going for your dreams and not letting things stop you, even if you have obstacles that most people think, oh, I shouldn't do it. And I feel like that's in like business or in life or just in general. Um, so I think something like that, because I think a lot of times when people dread Mondays, it's like that feeling of having to do something that you really don't want to do, that doesn't feel you, that doesn't make you happy. And so I really feel like everybody needs to find what makes them happy, what fills them, and then make the changes needed to be able to have those things in their lives all the time.
I
So
like
they don't
that.
have to dread. So I think that's something that we can definitely discuss further.
So,
But
perfect. Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I started this podcast is because people have different Mondays. They don't know how to overcome them or what to do to get past them. So,
yeah, I've noticed that a lot of times in life, so I'll speak more from the perspective of like a mother. I feel like as moms, a lot of times we think that we have to like live a certain way, that we have to raise our kids a certain way, and we have to fit in this box. And for our kids to be like successful and for our families to be happy, like this is what society dictates that we should do, and we just think that we need to find happiness in that box. And I lived like that for my first. I have 4 kids now. And so my first 2 kids, I was thinking, okay, so life needs to be like this. I need to raise them like that. I need to be home with them and all these things. And like, I just need to be focused on that and housework and those things. And that's what, life should be about. And I need to be happy about it. And I didn't really realize it, but I wasn't happy with it. Like it took me, we moved from Virginia to Utah, and I was raised in Utah and I went to high school in Utah. And I feel like middle school and high school, oftentimes we find our passions there, like things that we really love, that band that we really love, or, that group that we really follow, or things like that. Like those are when we're the most passionate. And we find, things that really call to our hearts and our souls, I guess. And so when I went back to the area where I was at, when I was growing up in high school, and I realized that the things that made me happy I wasn't really doing. And then I had a realization where I was like, well, I can do both. I don't have to give up the things that make me happy to raise my family. And then I also came to realize over the years, I'm just like, if I'm not happy, then everyone else is going to have a hard time in the family. And so as I made that transition of filling my day with things that make me happy and just taking my kids with me, I began to realize how much I love traveling. Like I just remembered how much I love it. And, there's this mentality where you have to wait till you're retired to travel, or wait till your kids are grown up to travel, or wait till you have a certain amount of money to be able to do that. And that mentality of waiting is really kind of depressing. It's like you're waiting to be happy. And I found that in this day and age, you don't have to wait. I mean, of course, you do have to work towards things, and it takes time to get there, but you don't have to just wait and not do anything to get there. I feel like a lot of times people think, okay, if I just sit here and just do these, things, these tasks that I really dislike doing for who knows how long, and eventually, the happiness will come, it will never come. But if we're saying, okay, this is going to make me happy, and I can get, do these small steps to get to this happiness, it's a lot easier, and you're working towards it every single day. And so for me, it was, the traveling was just something that I wanted to do all the time. And I discovered on Facebook that so many families were already taking their families to see the world, and they weren't waiting for, retirement or waiting for the kids to grow or anything. And I was like, I don't need to wait either. And so we started looking for ways to be able to make an income online. And the more that we were looking, we weren't finding the right solution. So it just came down that we had to create our own business to be able to make the money the way that we wanted to make it. And not be that's a hard thing about being an employee, is that you have to live up to someone else's standards and wait for them to approve of you. And then you have to hope that they will accept you the way that you have, you know, like with the criteria that you have, the skills that you have, and hope that that will be enough, and then that you can use that in the field. And so as an entrepreneur, it's nice because you just create it yourself. It takes time for it to get to where you want it to. Hopefully the train won't take up all the sound because there's a train coming through now. Let me know if it gets too loud. But yeah, so like we created it, and you know, at first it was so slow. Like we would get like one client one day, and then months later another client, and it was just like dragging on. And it's actually been nice with the pandemic that because people are moving to online now, more people are looking to do things online and remotely. So now it's like everybody's like, oh yeah, you can connect. Before, I feel like people didn't trust remote computer help. And now it's like, oh yeah, definitely this is the way to go. So just seeing that transition has been really helpful for us. But so we created it, and one of the mentality of the gotta wait till we earn enough money, I was having that too, because I was like, well, the business needs to be here, we need to have an income like this to be able to pay for all this. And as I kept, you know, thinking about it and wishing that we could be traveling already, because I started thinking about it in 2015, 2016, about traveling full time. And then when I realized that it was just not happening with the business, in last year, in 2019, trying to remember the year, that's when I realized that, you know, we just don't have to wait. We can make it work with what we have, and we don't have to keep waiting. And it's not, you know, as luxurious as we'd like it to be, but we're still doing it. You know, for me, it's more important to actually be doing it than to be doing it in style or as comfortable as sometimes you wish you could do it, or as flexible, I guess. But so I just, you know, we just decided to just do it. And so last June we began the full-time life, and it's been really good to connect with people in different places, you know, and to have social media to be able to use to grow. And it, to me, it's just like, now it's really hard for me to think about going back to that mentality of before, of living life within the box, because I know that I would never be happy again. So I feel like when you make that transition of, okay, this is not making me happy anymore, you know, this job is making me dread going to work on Monday or whatever, and just realizing, okay, this will make me happy, and I'm going to move forward with it, and I'm going to choose things that will get me to, you know, that happiness every day. That's when it makes all the difference, and you just never go back, because you know that you'll be, you know, depressed or unhappy or unsatisfied with life. So I feel like the first step for anybody is to analyze what makes them happy. I think a lot of people struggle with that they don't know, like, I don't know what my passion is, I don't know what my skills are, you know, or I don't know what my dreams are. So a lot of people will say that they forget like what the dreamed about when they were young and didn't have to worry about bills and children and things like that, and they just need to rediscover that. And once it's been rediscovered, I feel like that is huge, because then you can start moving towards something instead of just guessing what would make you happy, you know, and guessing like how you can really change the life to make it meaningful for you, you know.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of people, you know, are, like you said, are stuck in that box for one reason or the other. You know, it could be just the way they were raised, the way they were done. Like a story I heard was this person was cooking a ham, and they cut the ends off. And someone asked them why they cut the ends off, and so they asked their mom. He's like, I don't know, I just do it. That's what my mom's always done. And so she called her mom, Mom, why do we cut the ends off the ham when we cook it? that's the way grandma's done it. That's the way was taught to do it. Blah, blah, blah. Call grandma. Okay, grandma, why do we cut the ends off? Oh, I did that because it wouldn't fit in my pan. You know, so she did it out of necessity, but it doesn't mean that it's like the way it has to be done every single time. You know, circumstances change or whatever. So people, you know, this was good enough for my mom, good enough for my grandpa, good enough for me. You know, people don't see that. There's some of that, and there's also the box of the unknown. You know, oh, I don't know what's going to happen if I do this, or the box of what if. You know, what if this happens, or what if this doesn't happen, or like you said, what if I'm not as comfortable, or what if it doesn't work out exactly like I want it to, or what if, you know, and that could be their setback, their holdback is that the unknown, that fear, that what if. You know, and it's hard for people to get past that or to go past that, you know, and go from what if to I'm glad I did. You know, so thanks for pointing it out, and also thanks for pointing out, you know, it may not go as quick as you want or happen like you want or when you want or how you want. You know, you mentioned it just wasn't happening and whatnot for a while until you finally sat down and made it happen. Or you also mentioned, you know, you thought you had to live in this box as a mom. You know, this is what a mom looks like. You know, this is this, this is this. You thought you had to live in that box, and for a while that's what you did. But you know, because that's how you were raised. That's how society teaches us. Whatever, you know, 2 + 2 is 4. You know, that's how we're always raised, or whatever the case is. But you know, like you said, you have to sit down and find out what you want. Because sometimes, you know, square peg, round hole. You're not going to fit in that box, or that box isn't going to make you happy. It's not going to fulfill your purpose. You know, so you got to make those changes to be able to get out of that box and find that purpose.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's I was actually, because I've been kind of looking at different classes of different things to do, like investing in the future, because you know passive income's always important to have no matter who you are. And I remember being in a class that was like, it was income for real estate or something like that. But the guy said something so cool. I loved it. He said, you know, when you have something that you really want, he says, look at that goal and then think of 3 things that you need to do to get to that goal. So he's saying, do it backwards. So you look at the goal and you say, okay, in order to have that, like for example, I was at that time, I was thinking, okay, I want to do world schooling with my kids. Right now we're doing road schooling, where we're, you know, doing school on the road, but I want to do world schooling where we're doing school in different countries. And so the thing, my thought process was, okay, if I want to go to do world schooling, we all need passports. So that's gonna be number 1, you know, and making sure that you know where you want to go and things like that. So you just kind of make a list, 3 steps to get to that goal, and then you work on, you know, each step to get there. And I feel like we should sometimes we want to tackle like the easiest one that doesn't really get us there, or we make extra goals that are really not necessary. So it's really important to just look at yourself and really realize what it is that you want from life. Because you know, life, people always say, oh, life is so short. Like that's kind of why I was like, we need to do this now. Because I'm like, well, what if I don't have tomorrow with my kids? You know, I only get to be with them until they're 18. And some people are like, I have to be with my kids until I'm 18, until they're 18, you know, or whatever, when they leave the house. But these are like the most precious years that we'll always be looking back on. And so we just got to take advantage of it, and just everyone needs to analyze what makes me happy, what do I want from life, and then focus our life around that. And I feel like as we do that, a lot more people will be happier and more successful and more satisfied from life. And I think we'll see a lot less anxiety, because I honestly feel like a lot of the anxiety we have is when someone's trying to live up to someone else's expectations, or the expectations they think that someone else wants them to have of them. And if we can just realize that no one else, you know, as long as everybody's well-being is met, we don't need to worry about what other people think of us. And that's, you just need to move forward and make sure that you're happy. But of course, you know, making sure that everybody's good and in the sense of like healthy, you know, because sometimes people think, well, I'll just do whatever I want and I'll just, you know, live my life, and then they damage people in that way. That's not okay. We want to make sure that we're doing something that helps us be happy, but then it doesn't affect anybody around us negatively. And so I think that's also something that a lot of people don't realize.
Thank you. I like how you pointed up that perspective change. You mentioned that you get to spend this time with your kids versus I have to be with my kids. I was just playing video games with my boys, and sometimes it's hard not to think sometimes like, oh, I'm wasting my time playing video games. You're focused on the video game or whatever, and I could be doing this, I could be doing this, I could be doing this. Instead of I'm spending this time with my boys and we're having fun and it's a good bonding moment. So a lot of that perspective, goes a long way. And then also something else you pointed out is breaking things down into smaller bite-sized pieces that work for you. If you got this big old task, you can get overwhelmed and then just give up completely. If you're like, okay, I'm going to focus on this little teeny spot of it for right now. And once that's done, I'll move to the next one. And once that's done, I'll move to the next one. And then after so long of doing that, you can look back and say, wow, I've got like half the circle done, or whatever that goal is. So just break it up into small chunks. And then the next thing you pointed out was just getting started. Going back to that what if, or I don't know about this, or I don't know how to do this. Just do it. You'll figure it out. You mentioned you had to create your own business to make it work the way you wanted it to work. But you did it. You figured it out. You made that effort, that mind shift to, okay, I don't see anything over here that I want. I've got to go create something or make it the way I want it that'll work for me. To fit my family, my lifestyle, fulfill my purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I appreciate that. What were some of the things that made you recognize some of those mind shifts? You mentioned about the square box or whatever, but what kind of turned on the light or made the light go on? You're like, I could do this over here?
I think it was just kind of like a gradual thing. It kind of started off with, this is going to be kind of silly, but so I really liked Zumba. And so I really liked to go, but the only way I could go was I would go to these free classes that a friend of mine was doing, and I'd have to take my kids. So I started taking them, and I was like, okay, we did this together. And then when we were back in Utah, I started like taking my kids to go places, just small places, going to Salt Lake or whatever, and just kind of going nearby places. And it was just kind of a gradual thing, like, oh, let's go up the canyon. And then I'll take them by myself. And then I would say, oh, let's go this place and this place. And I just kept going like further and further. And I think it was that idea of, and then realizing there's other families that were traveling full time. It just made me realize, like, I can wash dishes and make dinner and clean dirty diapers, and I can do it in a place where I can choose where I want to be, I don't have to be stuck in one place all the time. And just the realization of knowing that there were other people already doing it was kind of that light for me, that I didn't have to be like everybody else, like growing up in a neighborhood and having the kids, playing with the same neighbors all the time. Like we could have the securities of a house, like, running water, electricity, air conditioning, things like that, having a fridge, where to store our food and things like that. But we could still enjoy it, and enjoy what's out there. I just feel like there's such a huge world out there. It's just so many things to see. And there's not enough time in this life for any of us to see all of it. And so I'm just like, well, I would really like our family to have these experiences, because in the end, that's all that you can take with you is those experiences after this life, and that's all you have. And so I just feel like they're worth more to me than just being in the same place all the time for like years. And I still have those moments where I'm just like, oh, maybe we should go back to, conforming to society and things like that. But then something like this, this pandemic happens, and now that everybody's kind of switching over to the mindset that we had, like, so previously we were already homeschooling, and then before this, we were working online with the computers online, and then we were also already like doing the camping thing because we're in the RV. And it's been really interesting because we were with our family. With the pandemic, I feel like everybody is looking to do remote things online, which we're already doing. They're having to homeschool their kids because of, the issues with the schools right now. And they're also wanting to do things like camping and spending time outside with their families because we're trying to be distant from other people. And so it's interesting to see how the things that I thought would make me kind of like a outcast or weird, like, to society, and most people find it very surprising that we're doing it, and now the things that people are looking at. Like, I just saw an article yesterday, I think it was, that it was saying that now the safest way to travel is via RV. And so I feel like the things that I thought would make people kind of be like, you're doing what? And you're doing with their kids, and they're doing it that way, kind of thing, make people question us. And now I feel like they're going to be joining shortly. So there's I have families contacting me like, oh, we're going to make the plunge. We're selling our house. We're going to start full timing too. And it's not because of us, but it's because the mentality and the mindset is shifting now because of it needing to, because of the pandemic. So it's been kind of nice in that sense to not be the weird one, I guess, the strange one, the different one, I guess. So
Yeah, it's always funny when the people give you the weird looks and stuff, and then they start asking you, how did you do that?
Yeah.
What effects have you seen on your changes you might set with your children and family? You mentioned for a while you were living in the box as a mom or whatever, What impact or what effect is you seen the change in them by your choices of doing that?
So do you mean like my immediate family?
Whoever,
or like
your
whoever?
children, your husband.
That's quite a topic. I look very white right there. It's all like faded anyways. There we go. So I have family members that are outside of my immediate family that were like, you're going to do this with kids? You have 4 kids. Are you crazy? You're going to ruin your kids, or your kids should be in school, that kind of story. And that was hard to hear that. And especially when it's people that you highly value their opinion. So that would be hard. But with my immediate family, like with my husband and my kids, at first I was kind of like nervous to present the idea to my husband because I'm kind of the crazy one in the relationship, and he's the stable, calm, wise one of the relationship. And I was kind of nervous talking to him about it. And but when I told him, he was like, "Oh, that's really cool that they're doing that." And so we actually spent like years looking at what kind of RV we wanted, and what we would do with it and what it would look like. And it was actually really nice. Like, I felt like it unified us more as a couple because we had a common dream and goal. So we did that, and my kids were like, that's gonna be so much fun. We get to go different places and play with different friends. So they were always on board. Like, they're all under the age of 10, so they were super excited. But there's moments where they're kind of like, oh, I miss this friend or that friend. It's like, can we drive across the US to go see so-and-so? And so they kind of miss that. So I try to make a lot of our stops with, like, where we're in the vicinity of people. Here now it's a little bit harder with the social distancing, but before that's what we were doing. So So that's been interesting to see that. But I feel like there's members of my family who are like, man, you're giving your kids like the best experiences ever, and they're gonna have these memories for life. And then you also have like older couples that you see meet in campgrounds, and they're like, oh, what you're doing is wonderful. There was a teacher. She's like had taught for years and years and years in elementary school, and she is retired now. And when we got to know each other actually during the quarantine, we had to be quarantined in Alabama for 6 weeks. And so she would come by and drop off, things for us, and we would talk at a distance. And so she told me, she's like, I really think that what you're doing with your kids is completely amazing, because they're going to be seeing things and experiencing things that no other kids, that are not doing this are not going to experience. And so it just helped me to be like, okay, so this is okay. We're doing good. Like, I'm not ruining my kids. I'm not like damaging them for life. Because I feel like sometimes I think that's like something I think like that I'm being selfish and that I'm doing something for myself, which I feel like as parents, sometimes we have to do things like that to survive being a parent, is to have time where we are being selfish in the where no one's getting neglected, but in the sense that we're doing things that satisfy us as parents and fills us up, both as parents, like dads and moms. And so but yeah, there are moments where I'm just kind of like, am I doing this for myself or am I doing this for my family? And sometimes I guess it can be both. Just depends on the moment, I guess.
And there are definitely moments when you're like, I'm going to do this because I said so. But
yeah.
But I think also, I think it's important that it'll give your kids like the mindset shift head start, like you said, don't do anything negatively that'll affect them or others negatively, but think outside the box. It doesn't always have to be this way, or you can do things, even though people are gonna give you weird looks or whatever, or just because I did this or grandma did this, or school says this is the way it's done. There's other possibilities out there. So I think it's a perfect example of giving them that mindset shift and start for your kids. Just go after it. Start now. I know people that like you said, have the plans. I'm going to do this and this and this when I retire, and then they get to that and they can't do it anymore for various reasons. So now they've missed that opportunity, or I should have, wouldas, whatever that
Yeah.
goal is that you have in mind. So thank you for bringing that up and pointing that out.
You're welcome.
On that. What was it like, or what suggestions would you have to people, like you said, people contacted you, said we're going to take the plunge and start traveling full time? And what are suggestions that you would give them as far as like living in an RV if they choose RVing, like, or mindset and adjustments, things like that? What are a couple things you would tell them?
I would suggest. So my suggestion, first of all, is if you're looking for an RV, you need to make sure that you find one that fits your family. So just kind of analyzing like the bed setup and the way that you would have to like, move it, like what it works best for your family, what type of vehicle would you need to get for it, things like that. But I think the biggest thing is mindset, because there's answers for the little things like what type to get and things like that online. But if you don't have the right mindset, it makes all of it hard, because it's different. Like your chores when you are in an RV are very different than when you are in a house. So, you have to be dumping the tank and stuff and things like that. And you have a smaller space to store things. And so just thinking like, I think the biggest thing when you're making any changes in life is to understand that everything, I have actually started reading a book that's called this, Everything is Figure Outable. when you have that mentality, like, okay, I have a problem, but I'll figure it out. That's when anything can work. Anything that you want to try, anything that you want to do, just realizing that you can figure anything out, that's huge, because there will be all kinds of obstacles, ranging from blown out tires, which has happened to me when I was driving by myself in the RV, and it's really scary, to like not knowing where you're at, or trying to figure out where to drive or how to get to certain places. It's just like, that's another thing that I've learned a lot about, is when you take the wrong turn, there's always going to be another road to get you out. Like, there will be other roads that can help you get to the same destination, even if you do take a wrong turn. And so in life, we just really need to realize that we need to take advantage of the life that we have before it's too late. And to make sure that we know that we'll be able to, overcome anything, even if it's like seems really dire in the moment. It can work itself out. We just have to focus on the solutions rather on the problem itself. Because I think that a lot of times people find themselves with a problem, and then they stop everything because of the problem, blame the problem, and then they don't progress anymore. So I really feel like people need to realize that. And so if people wanted to do the RV life, I would highly suggest figuring out what kind of RV they want, making sure they know what kind of memberships they want to have for campgrounds, because there's some that you can pay $40 a month to stay at different campgrounds all over the US, to paying for, thousands of dollars at a campground if you want to stay for a month. So it just kind of depends on how you want to go about it. And you can get campers from $10,000, up to $300,000 or more. So it just depends on what you want to do and how you want to go about it and where you want to go. And I think in life, that's just kind of a general thing, because there'll be people who don't want to travel full time, but they want to do something else that seems hard and out of reach, but they can figure it out. And I am grateful that we live in an era of social media and the internet, because anything can be Googled. You want to learn how to play a guitar and you've never done it before, you want to be a rock star, you can do it. It just takes time to get there. I mean, I've seen pictures of ballerinas that started when they were like 80 years old, and they're doing amazing. You can do it. It doesn't matter. You're never too young. You're never too old to do the things that you really want to do, as long as you don't let yourself stop yourself, and know that you can do it. And as long as you put your mind to it, I guess, like they always say. So those are just kind of some thoughts that I've had with that.
Awesome, thank you. You brought up a couple good ones. As an RVer myself, for the first while, I'd run into a problem and I'd let it ruin the whole trip.
Oh.
It took a while to get that mindset where it's like, okay, there's a problem, we can fix it, but it's not going to ruin the whole trip. We can fix it and get past it. And you mentioned everything is figure outable, and then you also mentioned using the resources available, and part of that figure outable process is asking for help. You don't always have to figure it out on your own, or you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. Eat that piece of humble pie if you need to, and ask for help sometimes. Get a mentor, talk to someone who's doing what you want to do or been where you want to be. So thank you for bringing those up. And again, thank you for taking time to be here. Where can people reach you if they wanted to ask you more about traveling full time, or you do your computer 5-tech check? Where can they reach you to ask you about those as well?
So I'm mainly on Facebook. So you can go to Karin, I think it's Fuentes Antigua, on Facebook, and just message me. Or you can also, our website is www.5, the number 5, and then the word checktech.com for our computer business. We are on Instagram, and I just post like occasionally pictures. I think it's called Familia 5 Check Tech Adventures. I think that's what it was. I'd have to look at it. I can't remember at the top of my head. But we are on Instagram as well. So, but yeah, I think messages are probably the best to do on Facebook. And then I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Awesome, and we'll post a link up there with this video as well. Again, Karin, thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge and experience with us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the invitation.